Morning, folks. Yes, it's me again. I love it when that happens. Anyway, it's time for another video, thrill-packed as usual, from the International Big Shot. And this is the second attempt I've made on the topic for this video, and that is everyone's favorite at this time of the year, daylight savings time. Now, I made this video last week, but when I looked at the results of all the takes and my explanation of what I was going to propose in that video, it was the most ridiculous thing I think I've ever seen to come out of this Sony action cam. I tried to explain what my plan was, but at the end of my explanation, even I didn't understand it. So if some of that footage is still recoverable, we might have that at the end as a blooper video, and maybe you can watch it and figure out if you can understand what I was talking about. So my producer encouraged me to write a script for this video, and we're going to have a second try at explaining what universal time actually is. This is my idea, and we'll see how it works. So stick around. It seems like every year when this daylight savings time comes up, people everywhere use it as something that they can talk about and blast because they don't like it. But I'm sort of non-committal. I don't really care whether we have daylight savings time or not. I don't understand why people don't like it, but there's something in me that says if we're going to do something that affects practically everybody in the country, or everybody really in North America, because I think Canada also switches their clocks. I'm not too sure about Mexico. But when it's something that governments pass or do that affects so many people, there should actually be a reason for it. And you probably already know where it originated from, and that is when Germany started doing it during World War I to save energy. So I thought, well, saving energy, that's a good reason to do it. So I started researching that, and the take on daylight savings time saving energy is actually not a very good one. There are people that report that you can save up to 1% of electrical power by switching to daylight savings time. I guess that's because people don't turn their lights on until later in the evening. And since it's later when they turn them on, they don't leave them on for very long before they go to bed. Of course, that's the man in the cave explanation. Since I don't really know, I'm just trying to figure out from what I do know, based on the facts, as to why that might be the case. But it's 1% of energy saved, so it's not really that much. And some people will argue that it's not worth it. The United States adopted daylight savings time in the 1960s when I was a kid. And I asked my mother why we did that, and she said it was because the government wanted to have an extra hour of daylight in the day so we could go outside and play for another hour. Obviously, she was pulling my leg, but I was well into my 30s before I realized that. That's the reason that we're on daylight savings time now, because it was started in the 60s. Now, I remember that the 70s was when we began to worry about the availability of energy. In the 1960s, if people were talking about conserving energy, it was something that completely passed me by. I don't remember that at all. We started worrying about energy in the 70s, I think, during the oil embargo, 1973, 2, I don't remember, but you can look that up. This is my plan. I want to switch to universal time. Now, anybody that has listened to shortwave radio throughout their life knows that there is a universal time that radio stations around the world use to set their clocks. In fact, you can tune into some of these stations and they give the time every minute. Those are the stations that just beep, beep, beep. Every second there's a little beep. And then every minute they tell you what time it is.
CHU, Canada. Coordinated Universal Time. 0 hours, 14 minutes.
0 heure, 14 minutes.
And the time they give is universal time. It's called Coordinated Universal Time. And it's abbreviated UTC because it's actually a French abbreviation. The time is actually named. The time is actually named. Actually, I don't know what the time is actually named, but in English, it's Coordinated Universal Time. It's called UTC. You'll see that listed everywhere if you look this up. Coordinated Universal Time is not abbreviated CUT, as you might think. It's just not. Anyway, that's my plan, is to go to that. So, Coordinated Universal Time uses the prime meridian, which runs through Greenwich in Great Britain, as the 0 meridian. And that, whatever time it is there, that's the time that we would use around the world as universal time. Now, all that would mean, to switch to that, is that we would get out of the idea that we work from 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 or whatever your work day is, and you would just switch the hours to universal time, and that would become your work day. So how would this work? Well, recall that in every country on Earth we have time zones. The United States has 4 time zones. I live in what's called the Eastern time zone. Malaysia only has 1 time zone. When I live there, I am in Malaysia Standard Time. It's abbreviated MYT or MST or something like that. I don't know exactly what it's called. But it's named after the zone, the time zone that they're in. We are in the United States during daylight savings time 4 hours behind universal time, and Malaysia is 8 hours ahead of universal time. Under my plan, we would both switch to universal time. So if it's midnight universal time, 0 hours, Malaysia would be 0 hours. It wouldn't be 8 o'clock in the morning anymore. It would be 0 hours. Sun is just coming up at 0 hour. Likewise, here in the Eastern time zone in the United States, 0 hour in universal time would be 8 p.m. or 20 hours here in the United States Eastern zone. That would become 0 hours. So 0 hours in Eastern time, we would just be sort of mid-evening, late evening maybe. People would just be getting ready to go to bed at 0 hours. So the benefits of this, of course, are what time is it? You don't have to know what time zone people are in anymore. You just simply know what time it is, say, on Earth. It would make it a whole lot easier for people in the space station, although I'm sure they have their own way of keeping time, depending on where they are. I should look that up and make a video about that. But that's my plan. Forget daylight savings time, forget time zones, forget all that stuff, and just switch to coordinated universal time for the entire planet. Now, I'm sure there are going to be problems with that. How do you keep track of days, for example? When you travel, you would have to inquire as to what the workday actually is, because it's not 9 to 5 anymore. It might be, depending on where you are, but chances are it wouldn't be. All kinds of different things would have to change. That's why I'm pretty sure this will remain a good idea that never gets implemented. But I'm sure there are a lot of those ideas out there that are good, that actually people just never do. Anyway, that's it for me in this video. Just after making it now, I can see that the explanation was far better than the original one. And anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.